Hello everyone, I'm Marianna and today is the last day of this 20-day knitting challenge. I want to end this challenge talking a little bit more about gauge and mastering gauge. So take notes and let's get started. If you have more stitch that your pattern can force, your gauge will be too tight and your project will be too small. So what do? You need to loosen up. A great way to do this is by swatching to a larger needle size. This will spread out all the stitches and give you a looser gauge. On the flip side, if your gauge is too loose, you have a fewer stitches than the pattern calls for. This means that your project will be larger and you may even run out of yarn. To fix this, try using a smaller needle size. The smaller needles will pull your stitch tighter and help you get the correct gauge. Another thing to consider is the type of needle you're using. Some knitters tend to switching from plastic to bamboo or metal needles help them achieve a better gauge. If you're having trouble, try experimenting with different needles materials to see which one works better for you. If you think your gauge may be off halfway to a project, switch needles and knit a few rows with a new size. Then wash and dry your swatch with both gauges so you can compare. This is a great way to see if the adjustment works. When you knit a garment, it hangs vertical to the body, right? So why don't you let your swatch hang in the same way? For garments like sweater or cardigan, you can just measure it flat on the table, but also you can hang it. Pin your swatch, then take a hold, just like it will with your finished piece. This will give you a more accurate reading for garments. The yarn can stretch a little when it hangs, and this is especially helpful when measuring something like a sweater or a top that will have weight when it's worn. I can't stress this enough. Wash your swatch. If you're using a yarn that's washable, throw in the washing machine, just like you would with your finished project. Does it peel? Does it shrink? Does it stretch? You want to know this before you start knitting your finished project. Your tension has a huge impact on gauge. How tightly are you holding your yarn? How tightly are you holding your needles? These factors can really affect your gauge. If you're stressed, you may knit tighter than usual. On the other side, if you relax, your tension will be looser. You know what I do? If my gauge is off, I try again the next day. Maybe I'm in a different mood. Did you know that some fibers behave differently when you block them? Wool stretch, cotton doesn't. Always consider your yarn's fiber content when checking gauge. If you're using a wool blend, it might stretch after blocking. But if you're using cotton, it's not going to stretch so much, so your swatch will sure reflect that. Don't rely on only one measurement. Gauge can vary slightly across a swatch, so take the time to measure it correctly. Keep a notebook or a folder for swatch with notes on your yarn, needle size, and gauge. It's a fantastic reference for all your future projects. Flexi measuring tapes can stretch over time, and cheap ones might even be inaccurate from the start. Periodically compare yours to a rigid one to ensure it's correct. Stitch gauge is usually more critical than row gauge. However, if your pattern specifies measurements in rows and rounds rather than inches and centimeters, like knit for 30 rounds, a mismatched row gauge can cause issue. If only your row or round gauge is off, but your stitch gauge is spot on, don't worry, it is an easy fix. You can add or remove rows as needed. This is a simple for geometric project, but a little bit more challenging for those with shaping, like a sweater. So proceed carefully. Lace and color work are more sensitive to slight changes in tension and needle size, so take the time to make it right. Lace patterns can be tricky because of the open stitches created by the yarn overs and decreases. Gauge here isn't just about stitch count, but also about how the pattern opens up after blocking. Lace patterns require special attention to ensure they don't become too tight or too loose when you block them. If your lace swatch isn't opening up enough after blocking, try going up a needle size to give the stitches more room to breathe. If your lace is too loose or sagging, try to go down a needle size to tighten the fabric. Lace should be blocked aggressively to really showcase the design. If your swatch looks tight, even though your stitch count is correct, it may need more stretching during blocking. Use a wet block method and pin it. In some lace patterns, the stitch count can change dramatically due to increases and decreases. If you're off just a few stitches, it can throw off the entire design. Make sure your swatch replicate the same stitch patterns you're going to use in your project. I have knitted several lace shawls, but in the beginning I learned the hard way that blocking is everything. You have to open up these lace stitches, and blocking is the right way to do that. Otherwise it will be like a tangled mess. And sometimes you have to aggressively block your swatch and then your shawl. It's the only way to see the truly potential of the lace. Colorwork creates extra tension because you're carrying on two colors at once. This extra tension can alter your gauge, even if your basic stitch gauge is spot on. As a result, your colorwork swatch may hang too tight, causing the fabric to pull, or too loose, making it too floppy. One of the most common issues with colorwork is that knitters unintentionally pull too tight while carrying the yarn. You can adjust this by consciously loosening your tension on the colorwork rows. Make sure you're not tugging the yarn too tight in between stitches. Many knitters find that they need to go up a needle size when knitting colorwork to avoid the fabric being too tight. If you find that your colorwork rows are pulling in too much, try a larger needle for those specific sections. For colorwork project, you can do multiple swatches. Maybe you can just swatch the main color and then try doing the colorwork. And remember, the size of your floats, the yarn behind the work, should have to be factored into your gauge. I once knit a sweater, just like this one, where my floats were so tight that the entire fabric puckered. The stitch count was fine, but the colorwork was so tight that the sweater didn't fit at all. Before you ask, yes, I had to restart this project. But the second time I relaxed during my colorwork. So the sweater fit perfectly and the colorwork looked gorgeous. Thank you so much for joining me during those 28 days. I'm so excited to see all your knits. Continue knitting and happy knitting!